Yeah, so I started a YouTube channel. I was like a food vlogger side hustle back in the day when I lived in Toronto. It actually started as Evan Eats Toronto. Then I think it turned into like Evan Eats World or Evan Eats Vietnam. It developed, but I was a waiter and bartender for a long time. Do that as a side hustle when I was not doing film and photography gigs, or then later when I was a teacher, I would do it at night because the cost of living is so brutal in Canada that I would have 2 or 3 jobs.
Today we have a special guest. This is Evan. Evan does a YouTube channel out here also. The roles are a little reversed because I was sitting where he was last week and he was interviewing me, but with the roles are reversed, as I said, now I'm interviewing him. So he's on the hot seat today and we're gonna learn much more about Evan's life.
What's up, guys? I'm Evan A, Canadian, started as a food vlogger, and then now I make cost of living travel videos primarily about like Southeast Asia, a little bit specifically about Vietnam because I've been here for 6 years now.
Awesome. And you left Canada. You're from Canada, correct?
Yeah, so I'm actually a legit school teacher. Like I have a Bachelor of Education. I originally started teaching in Mexico when I was in my 20s. So I lived in Guanajuato and San Miguel Allende, central Mexico. And I was teaching English language there. I'd always known that I wanted to like live abroad or travel, but the money was terrible. Like the ESL pay in Mexico was so bad because it's so easy for Americans to come down and teach there. There's a high supply of teachers, so the pay is really bad. So I ended up actually going back to Canada, to Toronto, and doing college as an adult. I was like 26 when I became a teacher, and then there were no jobs in Canada. I think it's worse now, but this is back in like 2011 or 2010, so about 15 years ago. There was none. Like when I graduated college as a teacher, in Canada, all the teaching jobs are government jobs. You work for a public school, and there's just literally 0 jobs. So I left Canada even before the cost of living crisis. You couldn't afford a house then. Like a school teacher could not afford a house in Toronto, no chance. The housing crisis has been going on in Canada for at least 20 years. And I'm actually from the like downtown center. So I actually went to Australia first, which was weird. I'd tried to go to South Korea. It was my dream to teach in South Korea. And they have a couple different programs. There's one called I think it's JET in Japan, and there's another one in South Korea. And I had a bunch of friends doing that. People I went to teaching college with were doing that. But at the time I had a Canadian girlfriend. She didn't get her visa. She messed up her visa to South Korea. And so Australia was just this sort of like last ditch, like it's still in Asia, sort of. Let's go there. And it turned out to be great. I spent a year in Melbourne teaching there. And one of the reasons why it was great is because the pay in Melbourne is really high for teachers. Like they make way more than Canadians. So if there's anyone out there interested in doing like teaching abroad or ESL teaching, I think it was like 15 years ago, I was making almost $300 a day, 300 Aussie dollars, which is wild. That's like more than Canadian teachers get paid right now. But also Melbourne's super expensive. The cost of living in Australia is really high. So we spent a year there. It was awesome. When I was there, that's the first time I traveled in Cambodia, in Thailand, in I don't think I went to China on that trip. Definitely went to like Bali, Indonesia, whatever, this region, right? That was the first time I did like a big like backpacking, traveling around Southeast Asia trip when I was living in Australia. And that's when I got the bug. You know, I was like,
Everyone does.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that was about, what did I say? I think it was about 15 years ago. Yeah, close to 15 years ago. And I've lived in Canada since then. So after Australia, when my visa ran out, I went back to Canada. I taught for 2 years, 2 more years as a public school teacher in a place called Calgary. It's beautiful outdoor hiking, rock climbing, skiing. And Calgary at the time was way more affordable than Toronto or Vancouver. I could have actually, like, it was like a window. I could have actually probably bought a house in Calgary at the time. Actually, it's a weird personal moment. My girlfriend actually, she had a heart attack. And
Wow.
yeah. Yeah, and then so we ended up going back to Toronto because she wanted to be with her friend and close to her family. And then, yeah, I spent a year in China. I thought I was going to go to China. That was sort of like I was going to be there for the rest of my life. I spent a year in China taking the high-speed rail all around mainland China. I loved it, man. I felt a lot of it. I love Beijing. It's got this weird sort of grungy, like, it's like almost like a New Yorker vibe. Like, Beijingers just don't give a fuck. Can I swear on your channel?
Yeah, yeah.
Beijingers don't give a fuck about you, like in the best way, you know? And they're like yappy. Like, so if you go into like a store or restaurant in Beijing, they'll just like start like blabbing in your ear in Mandarin. Like, they don't care at all whether you can understand them or not. This is like a monologue, which reminded me so much of New Yorkers. And tough people. Hardworking. Yeah, all the like good gritty things about New York. I used to live like, man, ages ago, I lived in Brooklyn. I lived on Knickerbocker Avenue. So, and in Beijing really had that sort of gritty, tough, hardworking town, but also big money, big things. So a lot of parallels. I don't know if anyone ever says that before, but, and then Shanghai, I spent some time there. Beautiful, very flashy, very modern, big money, big everything on a grand scale. I spent some time in Xi'an, the old capital, then down in like Chengdu and Sichuan region, and I really loved it. There's some rock climbing down in that part of the region. That part of China is actually not that far from Hanoi. It's the same sort of climate and the same rock climbing. It's like limestone karsts, and it's exactly what you see in Halong Bay. Like what you see in Halong Bay and Ninh Binh, it looks just like that in like Yunnan province. And yeah, anyways. So I spent a year in China looking for where I would want to settle or want to live, thinking I was going to go to China for like long term, forever. And I got 2 job offers in Shanghai, and I was planning on moving to Shanghai for the rest of my life. I was like splitting up with my partner back home because, you know, she wanted to stay in Canada. She wanted to stay in Toronto and be around family and stuff, which is fine. And then an old like kind of coworker connection gave my name to the head of school at the Canadian International School in Ho Chi Minh City. And it turned out, we weren't like personal friends, we didn't know each other. It was just like a 6 degrees of separation thing. It turned out she had also been the principal at the school where I did my training in Toronto, like, I don't know, what, 12 years earlier or something, right? But again, it's like 2,000 people at the school. It's not like I'm friends with the boss or whatever. I was just like doing a 2-month training there. But whatever, it was a weird enough coincidence. I interviewed with her via phone, you know, like whatever it's called. The fuck is it called?
Skype,
yeah, we Skyped, exactly. We did like a Skype interview, and I was like pumped. I was like, oh my God, this is the best job ever. This is gonna be absolutely amazing. And then right at the end, we were all like smiling. I knew they were offering me, they didn't have to say it. I knew I had this job. I nailed the interview, whatever. And then at the end, they're like, well, do you have any questions for us? And I was like, yeah, like, what's the package? How am I going to get paid, right? And it was garbage. Like so one of the job offers in Shanghai, and if you're not a licensed teacher, this might surprise you. The job offers in Shanghai were for 75,000 US and 100,000 US dollars packages. So which means you're getting that much money as your salary, plus you're going to get, this is pre-COVID, plus you're going to get probably housing or like a subsidy. You're going to get your healthcare paid for. Like, if you really want to be an expat for a long time and you're really interested in teaching, don't screw around with the ESL. Go to college. Like, that's literally why I went from Mexico back to Canada. And I paid a lot of money for college in Canada to become a teacher, but that's why. Like, my job offers in Shanghai were sick. The job offer in Ho Chi Minh was for $25,000. So it was again, $25,000, as it turns out, is a ton of money to live on Vietnam. A whole family of 4 can live on that happily, generously. If you've seen any videos on my channel, I talk about that. My whole family of 4 lives on less money than that right now. We live really well. But I'd never set foot in Vietnam, had my sort of heart set on China, and then it seemed like this sort of like red herring good job offer. But the money, I literally I made a sound and like in the job interview still in Skype, and they like, I saw both their faces just drop, and I was like, I don't know, I was just honest. I was like, well, like, is that a problem? And I was like, well, I mean, like, I have 2 other job offers, and one is for 3 times as much money, and one is for 4 times as much money. So, what's so special about Vietnam? You know, why am I taking this job? And obviously, I chose to take that job and less money, thinking I'd only be there really short term, thinking it would be the experience of a lifetime for like 1 year, maybe 2 years, and then I would move on to a bigger, you know, higher paying sort of whatever, I don't know what the word is, but a higher paying or sort of more higher in stature job in Shanghai. And 7 months after I got to that new job, you know what happened, bud? Pandemic, lockdown.
So you were here during the pandemic in Vietnam.
Right. Yeah, first year in Vietnam. I spent 7 months, 6 or 7 months in Ho Chi Minh, maybe longer. I got there in July. For any of you who weren't in Asia at the time, a lot of flights actually went through Wuhan to Ho Chi Minh City. So like friends, family, people that come to visit me before in Ho Chi Minh always lay over in Wuhan. And months before there was any like talk internationally of COVID-19 or pandemic, like still in 2019, right? In like November and December 2019, I started seeing like hand printed Xerox signs at businesses in Vietnam, basically saying like Chinese people are not welcome.
Wow.
And they knew a flu virus, right? There was like hand printed notices. It was going around on social media and stuff here, like there's a flu, there's a virus in China.
And this is before it officially hit the USA.
Oh yeah, this is like November or December 2019. So again, right? Nothing really, I think like March 2020, we had a big meeting at my work because the Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau, had been like, everyone should come home. If you're an expat internationally, you should come home right now. And our boss had us down at work and was like, you're all adults, this is your choice, you're not tourists. You know, if this is your real life and you live here, we'd like you to stay with us, we're gonna employ you. And, you know, big thanks to my employer. I stayed employed the whole time. I stayed employed here. It's a very weird experience, but yeah.
So how long did you end up living in Ho Chi Minh for before finally coming out here to Da Nang?
Full 5 years, yeah. So 5 years. I had lived in Ho Chi Minh. When I landed in Ho Chi Minh, it was just before my 36th birthday, so I was 35 years old when I landed. And when we left Ho Chi Minh this last summer, I was 41. I just turned 41. So from 35 to 41 years old. Big things, man. I met my wife, I fell in love, had 2 beautiful kids who are Vietnamese Canadian kids, have a whole family.
So it was probably a big change from just a few years before when you were in Canada. You kind of thought you were going to go in one direction to wind up here all the way in Vietnam. It was probably a pretty big life change, would you say?
Yeah, man. I mean, I still think about it. I think not like the what ifs, because I'm perfectly happy and satisfied with everything that's happened to me, man. I've been totally blessed, and you know, with things I didn't even deserve. But it was a big what if too, right? I think the biggest one for me is I look back and think like, what the hell would have happened if I had actually been in Shanghai or taken that job, right? That's the thing that to me is scary. Like, and I would have stayed too. I know myself as a person. I wouldn't have, and until they kicked us out. But we had friends in Ho Chi Minh, and then I had friends up in Haiphong. I had friends in Vietnam who were teaching in China, in Shenzhen and Shanghai, who came here during lockdown because their jobs basically just sort of like gave them the boot, right? Said get out of the country, yeah. No warning, no pay. I know a guy who was trapped in the north of Vietnam. Now he's just settled there, he's happy, but he lived there for like 2 years or something with a full apartment and like house in Shenzhen. He lived in Shenzhen for like 7.5 years, and then he was just like homeless overnight, basically, right? Homeless and unemployed. My first real travel experiences were usually for like work stuff. When I worked a bit in film and TV before I became a teacher, which is cool, but it was like long hours and intense. And at the time, I was pretty wild. I wasn't, but so I've been all over North America, like really all over. I've been to like a lot of U.S. states. I've been physically back and forth across Canada. I've been all over Mexico, tip to tip, Pacific to Atlantic. I've been to most of the countries in Central America too. Never been to Panama, never got that far, but I've been to like a lot. I've been to Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, all up in that. Never been to South America. I did like two trips around Europe, so I've been to like most of sort of Western Europe, and whatever those countries you always hear about: England, France, Germany, Switzerland. Been to Poland. Yeah, I think I've been to almost all the countries in Southeast Asia now. I've never been to like Borneo, but I've been to, I've been around. I think I've been to most of them. I've been to Zimbabwe in Africa, Tanzania, South Africa. I should say, bucket list, I gotta go to India. I wanna go to India so bad, oh my God. But I've only ever been there on a layover. I went to Sri Lanka and I spent like the day in Mumbai or whatever on the way to Sri Lanka. So India, Pakistan, Nepal, places I haven't been that I really wanna go.
So India, be on the lookout for Evan sometime soon.
And India, that India, Pakistan, Nepal, man, even maybe Afghanistan or Iraq, if I could get there, that'd be interesting.
So, as I mentioned earlier, you do a YouTube channel. Can you tell our audience what your YouTube channel is about?
Yeah, so I started a YouTube channel. I was like a food vlogger, side hustle back in the day when I lived in Toronto. It actually started as Evan Eats Toronto. Then I think it turned into like Evan Eats World or Evan Eats Vietnam. It developed, but I was a waiter and bartender for a long time. Do that as a side hustle when I was not doing film and photography gigs, or then later when I was a teacher, I would do it at night because the cost of living is so brutal in Canada that I would have 2 or 3 jobs. At one point, man, pretty close to before I came over here, I was a teacher, like a high school teacher, delivering food on a bicycle, like for Uber, and working in a bar near like the sports arena where the Toronto Raptors play. I was saving money, but that's what I was doing so I could move, like, to save money to come to Asia, because I knew it would be better over here. The channel is called Evan A. It's primarily about Southeast Asia and Vietnam, cost of living. So if you're looking at like what it's like to actually live in Vietnam, how much it would cost to retire here or live here, or some of the other countries in the region like Thailand, Philippines, etc. That's sort of, I've done a couple of videos on Thailand, done a ton of videos on Vietnam, and I've spent a lot of time in both those countries. Philippines is next up on my list to investigate. And I've also started a podcast. Will was the first ever guest on the cost of living abroad pod. So on that podcast, we break down people's daily and monthly expenses to live abroad in different places and cities. And then we talk to them a little bit about their experiences, basically what it's like to go from their home country to wherever they are now. So what's it like for an American to experience Vietnam, or for a Frenchman to experience Thailand, that kind of thing.
Okay, perfect. And you live here with your family, correct?
I do, yes.
How is that as kind of a traveler and traveling with the family?
Well, it changes, big time. Babies are easy to travel with, kids are hard to travel with. That's what I would say. So if you see a baby in like a pack, easy, man. When we had one child and he was like under 18 months and not really moving around that much, just throw him in the knapsack and go. That first year, we literally did a trip every month. Like we were in Tan Son Nhat Airport in Ho Chi Minh every single month, doing weekend trips, whatever away. So easy. So easy, we made the mistake of having a second child. No, but for real, once you have 2 kids and once they can run away from you, travel goes out the window. It's terrible, yeah.
So do you have any advice for families watching this interview of what they should or shouldn't do if they have a family, and kind of give them a warning?
Well, if you want the world economy to do well and grow, you should have 2.1 children. But if you want to travel and make the best of your short time here on planet Earth, you should have less than 1 child or less than 1 child, especially if you're budget conscious. Honestly, you just gotta do you. You gotta do whatever feels right for you and your family, and your kids too, man. Kids are all so different. I feel like our daughter would go anywhere and do anything. And our son, man, he gets stressed out when he leaves his bedroom for like 30 minutes, you know? And you can't, I don't think you can control that.
Do you plan on staying in Vietnam? Is this your ending spot, or do you see that you will kind of eventually move on or try other places?
Well, my wife's Saigonese, she's Vietnamese, so we will always have like a connection and a link to here. I don't think we'll stay here when the kids are sort of like middle school, high school age, which is a long way off for us. That's like 8 or 9 years from now. So we might be here in Da Nang or like the Da Nang, Hoi An, Quang Nam region for the next 8 or 9 years. And who knows, maybe by then it will develop a bit more to the point where we'll want to stay forever. We've looked into buying property, but the reality is property here is really overvalued. So cost of living wise, there's no reason to buy here, like none. Even if you have money sitting in your bank account, what my personal opinion tip would be, don't put it into Vietnamese property. Come spend it here, start a business, you know, get a condo if you want or something. But there's houses in my neighborhood in Da Nang that literally cost more than like a house in Atlanta.
So I wanted to ask you, how do you usually spend your day here? I do know usually you'll go out on your bike with the baby seat in the back that I always see you show up in. So how does your day usually go?
Okay, so yeah, the day is pretty straightforward. It's get my older kid ready, put him on the back of the bike, take him over to daycare. Once he's dropped off, hit the coffee. Sometimes if we're up early, him and I will get like the coffee and the donut or bun together. Then it's straight back to work. I go up to we rent a house here and I have an office in the upstairs, and it's just like locked in on the computer 3 to 4 hours. That's my like best time of day, that morning time and the time when our son is at daycare school. It's like a preschool. Then lunch, you know, usually a whole family lunch, which is sweet. That's like a blessing, right? To be able to like have family time every day together at lunchtime. My wife also works remote, so she works from the house on a computer. But we usually have a lunch, whole family together, which is, you know, pretty incredible. And then the kids go down for naps, and when they're napping, that's this time. That is right now. That's my other sweet spot in the day. It's when I can leave the house from sort of 2 to 5 p.m., something like that. And I'll go out and film, go out and meet people. You know, that's the only social life I have is at this time of day. And then go back home, and usually we order grab food. So usually we get food delivered to us. We cook sometimes, but when we're cooking, it's just because we want to. It's because I'm like, I want to have spaghetti carbonara tonight, so I'm gonna go buy the stuff. Maybe if we're lucky, my wife and I get like an hour of Netflix on the couch or something. Like that's about it.
So you're saying that you're not out partying all night, hanging out down at the pub street?
Zero.
So you're in bed, tucked in, snoring by 10 o'clock or what?
Yeah. Until I did some, I did some good drinking and partying in my day, and I still drink. Well, my wife and I will have beer and wine. You know, she doesn't, most Vietnamese women don't drink a ton, but she does this, and I think it's pretty common here. She sips from mine. So she drinks, she likes drinking. And like when we were first dating, she would drink a cocktail and stuff. But part of that is like more of you see that in culture here. It's more about like having the drink, it being nicely presented and taking a photo of it and stuff. Like when we would go out to a cocktail bar, she wouldn't even care about drinking the alcohol. She just want the event, want to feel dressed up, want to feel like she's doing something. So we still do that. Maybe like once a month, we'll have a nanny and we'll go out and do like a nice dinner out together or something, date night.
So
Yeah.
Evan is kind of similar in the same boat as me. We're kind of budget conscious. So how does Vietnam's cost of living compare to your home country of Canada?
So I'm from like downtown Toronto, which is, it's not the capital of Canada, but it's the biggest city, and it's neck and neck for like cost of property with Vancouver, but for actual cost of living, it's the highest. There's no contest. So, you know, like just like a normal sort of townhouse or suburban kind of bungalow in Toronto is going to be like $1.5 million, right? And that's like 15 years of the high-end salary of a teacher. So you're talking like 15 or 20 years. I made a Why I Left Canada video, which you can check out on my Evan A channel. But it's minimum things are 5 times as expensive at home, but a lot of things are like, it's so exponentially more expensive in Canada than in Vietnam that the comparison just would seem silly, right? Like I guess you could say, okay, you can get a good banh mi sandwich here for 60 cents. One at home it's $12, so that's 20 times as expensive. And you know, when that adds up to everything, but it's also like we were talking about off camera, I have like a jersey collection here. I have like a collection of like hockey jerseys, basketball jerseys, football jerseys. I'm a huge Buffalo Bills fan, Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I still like sports, even though they're on at ridiculous hours here. You can get like a legit, crisp, prime jersey here for $20 US, because they're all manufactured in Asia. At home, those jerseys are $80, $160. For the throwbacks, $300, right? Like, there's no limit to how much more expensive things can get at home, and you can get high-end expensive things in Vietnam if you want, but a lot of the time, that high-end expensive thing is still way more affordable. I was also talking about earlier, we went and stayed at a nice Japanese resort near Da Nang recently, has a big, beautiful water park, and in the off-season, I think our like whole weekend family of 4 expense was like all in under $200. Like that's what? I don't know what you can get for $200 in Toronto. Nothing. I could go to a basketball game by myself, maybe for $200. Couldn't take my kids or my family, right? Like it's so hard to really like measure those actual costs, but that is what I'm all about, that on my channel and on the podcast we just started. So right now I spend $2,000 a month family cost of living here. Before I came here, I think my cost of living solo was about $5,000. And my quality of life is better here. My quality of life is better. And it's not even close. There's no debate. I also basically, in 5 years of really working here, saved more money than I'd saved in 20 years of hustling at home. So it's no contest. That's what I mean. There isn't really a comparison for it, but it's like, yeah, it's so much different.
What is the biggest misconceptions about Vietnam that you've noticed coming from Canada or even just from the Western world?
I was talking to another Canadian YouTuber just yesterday or 2 days ago. Her name's Mai. Check her out, My Abundant Life. And one of the things she said that really bothered her when she came here, that like struck a chord with me, was that she was like offended that people back home thought she was living here in like poverty or living somewhere cheap, right? Like, I mean, I remember you said this misconception that Vietnam is like the jungle, and I really felt that with because she has kids too, right? And so people think like, oh, you're putting your kids at risk. You're putting your kids in a bad situation growing up over there. And I'm like, no, you're insane. The situation is bad in Canada. The situation is bad in America. My kids are safe here, at good schools, well-fed, and like in Da Nang especially, in a beautiful, safe city by the beach, right? Like, so that would be the biggest misconception, the idea that it's sort of undeveloped and poverty over here. Yes, that still exists way out in the rural, but man, way out in rural Canada, like, I don't know if you probably don't have any Canadian people watching this channel, so they won't come shit on me for this, but like, if you spend any time on a native reservation in Canada, it's like people there get treated like it's a third world country. There's places in Canada where they don't have access to clean water. So is there that in Vietnam? I don't know. You know, like it's yeah. That would be my biggest conception about Vietnam, that people think you're in poverty or you're poor over here or whatever. Like, you know, when I was in Mexico, it was partying. When I was in Mexico, people would be like, whoa, you must be partying like crazy. And I'd be like, nah, man. I'm like hanging with Catholics. We go to church on Sunday. We work at the school all day. And now the one here is, oh, it must be poor, it must be gross, they must be dirty. right? Is the food safe? Is everything dirty? Is it dirty?
There's always going to be certain parts of a country that's bad, certain parts that are good, but the places that most of us travelers are going to come to or see is not going to be like that. So I had to chime in on the misconceptions. So I know there's got to be things, because I do miss some things about the USA. I miss driving a car, and I miss Mexican food, different types of food. What do you miss about Canada?
Huge portions of protein with carbs and extremely large high alcohol beers. Like, which it's not like I'm having that every day at Canada, but I can just like, I can picture it and like taste it, like being out in Alberta and you go to like whatever, some like, you know, Rocky Mountain craft beer brew pub. You go to the brew pub in like Whistler or Canmore, one of those like ski towns in Canada. And when they like put a steak and fries and like, you know, everything on the side, right? Like you got your sides with like your broccoli, your carrots, your all those root vegetables, huge plate of like a mashed potato or baked potato. Sometimes they have both, man. They'll double carb you back home in North America. And then like a proper like 750 gram steak. And you know it's like grade A Canada beef. And then beside that, a humongous ale, proper ale with frothy head on it. That's what I miss.
So I appreciate all you guys watching this channel. Please go check out Evan's channel. The link is going to be down in the description right there. Click on his channel. Please go check it out. Subscribe. Also, please check out my channel. If you guys have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. We just passed 5,000 subscribers, so I thank you guys very much. Look forward to some more videos that me and Evan will probably link up and do. Maybe even some podcasts. I have a great passion for audio podcasts. Maybe we can do something down the road. If you guys are interested in that, please leave a comment in the description. Once again, we thank Evan for being on the channel, and I thank you guys very much, and happy travels.